not attempt to adjust your dial. I'm transmitting live with the hardcore style. Fresh new kicks in the all-star glow. I'm up in the mix, this Paul, large pro. Straight out the gate with the fabulous track. And my devastating rhymes get the platinum plaque. For the underground world, every street and borough, even out of state.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the dirt today, this episode is featuring Taylor Burton, co-founder of Till Financial. That's right, Till Financial is a collaborative family banking app that creates smarter spenders, bringing financial literacy to the youth. Taylor, thank you for being on the dirt today. Really appreciate you taking the time out. How are you, my friend?
My pleasure, Dennis. I'm doing great, man. I'm sitting up here in northern Michigan, about 5 days away from my little sister's wedding. So, not a bad work environment. I'm looking over a lake behind me.
so that sounds amazing, and we won't keep you too long today. But we're really excited to hear about Till. But before we get into Till, I'm really interested and intrigued of hearing about how you became into this entrepreneurial world, and starting back at your days at John Carroll University. I spent a lot of time in Euclid Heights in my youth, and I think everybody had their first beer at John Carroll at Quinn's, and maybe you did as well. But
probably with Ryan too.
So, entrepreneurial studies. I find this intriguing all the time. Nature versus nurture. Is entrepreneurialism something that you can learn, or is it something that is innately born into you? And obviously things like the studies program at John Carroll bring it out in you.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that the entrepreneurial bug caught me, well before that. So I'd go more nature than nurture, but with nurture being a supportive function. So, I go all the way back to the time when I was on a playground in 6th grade, and they wouldn't let us bring money to school. So we made our own currency, and that became the commodity of trade at our school when it came to candy or extra lunches or the chocolate milk when you were leaving. So I was always trying to play an angle. And then, when it came time to get a job, 12 years old, my parents are like, lawn mowing's not cutting it, go figure it out. And so I went and I started painting houses for one of those student painter organizations. And, I was up on the roof, it was 95 degrees out. And I'm thinking through, like, the guys that are running this thing are never even here. I'm giving them 40% of the money for some signs in the yard. So the next summer I rallied 10 guys together, and I spun up my own company, and I ran that all through college. So, I've always been a go out and get it guy. I think that, with my time at John Carroll, what I was able to do is find some like-minded individuals that also had an interest in some of the similar things. But I think a lot of it is you're just that type of personality that's not going to conform, and you want to go out and get it on your own.
Unfortunately, it feels like, for me, it's always felt like failure when I had to have a job. Like, I don't know why. Like, even like really good jobs, like high-paying jobs, and I'd be like, man, I'm such a failure. Like, why am I sitting here trapped in this job?
Yeah, well, I think, Dennis, what that feeling is you want to be in a spot where you feel like it's just not your own effort that's moving the ball forward, but it's a collective effort and or idea. So I don't think that you're rare in that case. I do think that there's a ton of benefit that you can get from working for other people.
Sure.
You can learn what to do, what not to do. And it also kind of gives you a little bit of comfort as you're easing into whatever it is the decision you're going to make. I think the one problem that people hit is they get too comfortable, right?
Right.
All their bills are paid. They've got good health insurance. So then the jump to entrepreneurship gets much harder. So you've got to be willing to take that jump.
Now, your time that you spent in India,
mm-hmm.
how did that mold you in any capacity, in part of what you're doing today, help you along your path?
So I've been asked this question quite a few times, and I think the best response I can give for it is it helped me be comfortable being uncomfortable. So this thought process of, I'm outside of my comfort zone. I'm not sure how it's going to net out, but I'm in it, and I'm going to figure out my way from point A to point B. I learned that there. It's an English-speaking country, but it's a different type of English. The people everywhere all the time is a totally surreal experience. But after a month there, I was able to actually start to cut through that noise and kind of, I guess, a little bit of shock and awe, and start to realize and see some patterns and trends that were emerging there that really hadn't started to show its face in America yet. And that's that all internet is accessed via a cellular device. So no one has home computers, no one has laptops. When they're accessing the internet for information, it was on their cell phone. And they actually were first to be this kind of mobile first adoption site. So when I got done with that program and got ready to find a job, it was 2009, peak of the financial crisis. No one's hired. John Carroll certainly isn't helping people find jobs. They forgot that part of the job. And I found this guy that was building mobile websites in New York City. And I said, I gotta get a job with this guy. So for 67 days straight, I called him every single day at noon, and I told him something about mobile. I, gave him an idea, did some research, was polling my friends, stuff like that. And finally he's like, look, man, I'm going to be in Detroit. If you want to meet me at the airport there, we can chat face to face, finally meet. So I go and I drive 4 hours from Cleveland to Detroit, and I get to the airport and I realize that the restaurant he wants to meet me at is through the gate. So I had to buy a flight to Minneapolis just to get through the gate. I sit down with him. We meet for 20 minutes. He gets up, stiffs me with the bill, turns back and says, if you want a job, be in New York on Monday. This was before I had technically graduated. So I was like, I got to figure this out. Fortunately, the teacher that sent me to India was my guidance counselor. And she's like, look, man, you got a job. You got to go. We'll work out the graduation stuff. And I, sold all my stuff, sold my car to a kid on a payment plan, and just went for it. So I showed up on Monday in his office, and it was like 5 guys huddled around, one single desk. And Anthony Icavone looks up and says, holy shit, he came. And then here we are. So fast forward, I parlayed that into a job at PayPal and then ultimately Drizzly. And now, I'm on my own adventure.
That is an absolutely amazing story. And you're absolutely right, man. Like every time that it's either been a meeting, or a conversation or a bit, like anytime I've been where myself, I'm like, I really don't want to go. Like New York City, like I lived in New York for about 5 years, and I went for a job interview at that time it was in sales. I was like, do I really want to go to the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning? Do I really want to hop on this plane? Do I really want to live in New York? And I was like, you know what? That's living. Like it makes me really uncomfortable right now. Like, and I gotta go. Like when I go snowboarding and I look at a hill and I'm like, it looks sketchy. I'm like, we got to go do this. Like that's just who I am, right? And so I relate to that. I think that the other is just I think that people they've seen what we've done, some of the work that we've done, and it's like this overnight sensation is 20 years worth of work. Like you're a product of making phone calls and taking leaps and bound risk of driving to an airport, buying a ticket, going to New York. I can fully appreciate that. Like I can fully appreciate the fact that while most people are running out of the house, you're running into the house when like it's on fire, and you're like, all right, let's go find that. And I don't know if people can understand that or fully appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that people say when they're like, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to go out and do my own thing, is that they get to make that statement out loud, and then all of a sudden it happens the next day, it comes to fruition. The failure rate on an entrepreneurial endeavor is probably 90%, right? Maybe even higher. But again, comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're willing to keep on going and iterate and alter your plans, and also too, not get married to your idea, because what's a great product for you or a great service for you or a great line of consulting for you might not be scalable, and it might not be profitable. So you also have to understand that you are in a business to be in business. Otherwise, you're a charity. So being able to alter that and course correct is crucial for success.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And so, I always say, like, the biggest risk, unfortunately, that a lot of people took when they started their business was the day they decided to make that move. And then they stopped evolving after that. They stopped doubling down. They stopped, like just recently, because of the market, we provide marketing services to companies, but because of the market, we're getting into online job recruitment. It's a form of leads. Like, we're not an HR company, but we will run, for small to mid-sized businesses. And that pivot is something that, like, we're just taking advantage of the market right now is
Yeah,
lending itself towards it, and we know how to do that. We know how to find people. So let's jump into
it's very hard to recruit right now, right?
very hard.
Especially when you're a business that's not your core function, right? So like, I think that we're good at finding good people at Till, but we need to find them faster and we need to move faster. So, if you guys are a professional marketing agency, marketing people is not much different than marketing a product, right? So it's kind of right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, so you became the co-founder of Till.
Yep.
And your previous position or your previous venture was Drizzly.
Correct.
Which was a booze delivery app.
Yeah, booze delivery, alcohol on demand. We used to say, "Get the door, it's the liquor store."
So it's so funny because I was sitting around during COVID, and I'm at home, and I called my brother-in-law, and I'm like, "You know what, dude? I may have to start a grass cutting company." He's like, "You're gonna go cut grass?" I was like, "Look, man, I got 4 kids and a mortgage to pay. Like, I'll do anything." And then I was like, "You know what? Like, maybe I'll call a liquor store up and I'll start delivering booze. Like, people need that right now. Like, what do people need?" And then I found Drizzly. And then a year later, I'm talking to you that was a part of that. So you cashed out, buyout, right? And you decided to start this financial app predominantly targeted at kids, right? 8 to 18.
Yep.
And bringing financial literacy to young people, a very underserved topic. Talk a little bit about Till, how, what, when, and why, and where.
Yeah, for sure. So, my career has been, really tracing product market fit, opportunities that I've seen, pain points that I've seen, but all really centered around either e-commerce or fintech technology. When I was at Drizzly, I was highly focused on monetization for that team. It was one of those things that was like the go-go days of the oil boom. We were in the right place at the right time with the right technology and the right team. And, I'm one of these challenge seekers. And I think that kind of goes back into that entrepreneurial kind of nature versus nurture thing that we were talking about earlier. Once I think that I've kind of checked the box and done it, I'm not interested in sticking around and playing house. And that's ultimately, what I was starting to feel at Drizzly. So I knew I wanted to do something that felt like I was doing good while I was doing good, if that makes sense. And I also knew that I wanted to partner with Tom Pinson's, who's actually my uncle. He was the first real entrepreneur that I ever met in my life, and someone that I always looked up to. But it was also one of those things where we didn't want to force the relationship or force the business idea. So it had to be something we were aligned on. And so when Tom came to me and said, "Hey, I've been kicking around this concept of a bank for kids or a first bank for kids, and you're my fintech guy. Let's figure it out together." I was all ears, and a part of kind of the culmination to saying this is a good idea was Tom and I going out and talking to hundreds of families and finding out if this was a problem that just we experienced or if it was a problem that families at large were having. And there's always been this kind of underpinning of, we have a financial literacy issue in America. 34% of 18 to 34-year-olds live with their parents or in a house that their parents subsidize. So that would lead me to believe that we really do have a problem. And then I think the biggest thing is okay, if it is such a problem, Dennis, and why isn't Chase or Wells Fargo or Fifth Third or PNC solving it? Especially when we know that they've tried. And I think it all came down to focus, but also to really understanding and recognizing what the core issue around financial literacy was. And from our conversations with parents in living rooms, over coffee, etc., we started to hear kind of like a similar trend happening. We'd ask roughly the same 5 questions. So question 1, how did your parents do bringing you up from a financial literacy perspective? The answer, like across the board, was terrible. Didn't matter if their dad or mom was a CFA or CPA. The conversation of money is like drugs and sex. It's an uncomfortable one. It's one that my parents struggled with me with. So a lot of kids are left to kind of figure it out on their own, or wait until they're 16 to 18, just ready to launch. And at that point, there's some habits that have already started to form. The next question that we're asking these families is okay, what was your first financial blunder? inevitably it would be college, a car, a relationship, a first home purchase. But it was always this like big life altering commitment of cash that would be the problem that sent people in either a downward cycle or kind of like floundering for the next 10 to 15 years until they got to their mid
Sure.
30s. And so we go from that to saying, okay, let's talk about your kids. What are your hopes and dreams? Do you plan on doing something different? And they all wanted to do something different and they just didn't know where to start. And we looked at, the stuff that they were doing. It was all savings based, right? This 3 jars program, putting money into a random savings account that they don't touch until they're in college. The problem with that is that when you get to the end of the rainbow and you've saved 2,000 to 4,000 to, if you're really ambitious, maybe $6,000 as a child, and you're going to college and you're launching or you're starting your career, whatever it might be, that money goes really quick. That's a couple months. That's a few trips to the bar, maybe a new car, and it's gone. So you've spent all this time working towards this one saving moment, but then you're falling into the same trap that your parents had, which is their first financial blunder. So that caused us to start to reevaluate, okay, what is it that we're really trying to solve for here? And I think what we're trying to solve for is teaching kids the ability to spend well and spend wisely, right? So instead of having a savings focus, Till is really centered around spending. And that spend comes from the parents and it's via transferred agency. So think about kids in the dollars that they spend today. Typically, it's allowance money. We call it pepperoni or cheese money. What we really are trying to get kids to spend is the dollars that are going out on a month-to-month basis. Things like the Netflix bill, their cell phone bill, school lunch, those reoccurring expenditures that happen, so that the kid is having these teachable real-time moments of outflow of cash, and they understand that, hey, I cost money to run. I'm essentially a coin-operated kid or machine. And so with that spending focus, we're able to not only get parents to start the conversation earlier, but we're also putting kids in the position where when they do enter the economy, which is not a savings economy when you're 20 or 21, it's a spending one, they've spent real dollars in a zero-sums game. Does that make sense?
It does. It does all make sense, and it's really interesting because there's more opportunities as each generation passes by. It's harder and harder to save money and spend judiciously because there's just more opportunity for spend. Capitalism has exploded into every capacity of everything that we do, and so we have bills now and substantial bills that our parents didn't deal with and their parents never had to deal with. Like I spend $4,000 a year on my phone bill, like, right, for my family. And when you say that out loud, you're like, wow, like that's just so we can scroll Instagram.
Can you smoke signals?
Right. So now, so we can tell people how they can access Till. How can they grab it? What do they do with it when they get it?
Sure.
Yeah.
The whole stuff. Yeah, I mean, so we're in the iOS store right now. It's an app-based savings platform, spending platform, banking platform. We want to be your kid's first banking experience. This is a fiduciary beneficiary account. And Dennis, what that means basically is you, the parent, are opening up an account and you're giving your kids, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 19 kids and counting, access to their own card and number. You have essentially a water line that you fund from your existing account. So let's say you're a Chase customer. You'd push $400, $500 into your Till account, your parent holding, and then you can distribute those funds to your kids, whether it comes in the form of allowance, a monthly portion, whatever it might be. And then the kids, based off of whether they're saving for a goal, whether they're spending on monthly payments, they can use their individual Till cards, whether it's tap to pay on their phones or the physical card that we also send each of the kids.
Yep. It's a solid app, by the way. My wife has downloaded. We're helping with the adoption rate, by the way, with all my kids. So we yes, and my like just the other day, like he didn't pay this way, but my neighbor hired my 12-year-old son to take in his Amazon packages, right? So you talk about you got into painting when you were in college. So this is a job now, by the way. This is a hustle.
I love it.
Taking in people's Amazon packages. Watering his plants and his trash while he was away on vacation. Download the app. Till. Get your kids on it. Get them financially literate. Taylor Burton, my friends, he was out on the playground at 12 years old came up with an alternative form of currency, and now, a decade and a half later, as a financial app. So we're promoting entrepreneurialism. We're promoting people that are out there getting their hands dirty and a doer. You, my friend, are a doer. It's a very big pleasure to have you on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
We're going to make sure that we share this with everybody and anybody. Thank you, everybody, for dropping on by today for this episode of Dirt. Thank you, Taylor. Enjoy that wedding, by the way. Congratulations to your sister. We'll see you.
Thanks. See you, bud. End scene.
And you're great, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thanks for downloading it. We're rocking and rolling here, man. We're up to, I looked this morning, we got 25,000 users now.
Hey, beautiful, man. That's awesome. So Dominic was on silently listening.
Oh, cool.
And this is part of our grand plan to really try to push the envelope here.
Love it, man. I appreciate you.